for our special Pride edition of Novel Night. We're super excited, and all fiction for Novel Night is 20% off. So if you don't mind, buy some books.
Go crazy!
Help us out.
Whose
Some
idea
cheese.
was that?
What?
No.
And you know, a girl can only eat so much cheese, so I need some help eating it. And I can't control myself, so. All right, so let us get started. First, we're gonna have María. María Limón envisions a world free of violence and marginalization. She works in the field of domestic violence in Austin and is focusing on developing a writing life. Limón has benefited wildly from her participation with the Macondo Writers Workshop community, where she has been a participant and group facilitator. Welcome, María.
Thank you.
Yay.
Okay, good. Yeah, so thank y'all. Thank y'all for coming. So I was trying to decide what to read, and I just thought I'd go back and, since it's Pride Month, and just pick something that was more reflective of who it is that I am as a person. So I actually chose an essay. I didn't go for the novel. I chose an essay instead. And I used to drive my mother crazy, pobrecita. I almost killed her. She said it, like, I can't tell you how many times. She's dead now, you know, so she's, it worked, right, it worked, right. And so one of the things that would drive her crazy is that I would give people rides. Like people on the street, I've given hitchhikers rides, like down that, if y'all have driven between El Paso and here, you've driven that stretch of I-10 that's just lonely and desolate, and I've given people rides out there and you know, just done this all of my life. Old people at the grocery store, she would send me to the grocery store and I'd come home like 30, 40 minutes later than I should have because I helped the person select their groceries and drove them home. And so this is actually a story about giving people rides here in Austin. And I forget how many years ago it was. I can look, mira. A long time ago, man. This was back in 2004. And the city of Austin teamed up with the Humanities Institute at UT. Mira. I know, nobody ever calls, man. Oh, it's my goddaughter, it's me. I know, mija. I'll call her later. She's probably in trouble, her mom's yelling at her, so that's how it works. So the Humanities Institute teamed up with the City of Austin. They offer these writing workshops all over town, and I found out about it and had them lead a writing workshop at my place of employment at the time. It was a National Domestic Violence Hotline. And I participated, and they chose my essay. But the coolest part is, get this. I still can't believe it happened. Once a book was published, it was chosen as for the Mayor's Book Club. The city used to do the Mayor's Book Club's reading at the library downtown. And so they told me, please come, it'll be really good. And oh, by the way, Ann Richards chose your essay to read at that event. So I know it's a trip to have your words coming out of Ann Richards' mouth, you know? It was really a trip. She was, of course, still alive at the time. It wasn't an impersonator. So anyway, so this is that essay. And yeah, and just the other day I gave somebody a ride. It's very interesting, very interesting. So the essay is called Some Rides to Give. The couple hurried to the car when I pulled up beside them on BK's Road and asked if they needed a ride. I'm certain they would have run if the man hadn't been on crutches. The woman settled into the front seat, the man in the back, because he was more comfortable there. The late morning sun glistened on their bodies and their scent filled the car. They smelled of my father at the end of the day, of Comadre Cuca pulling children into her lap for hugs. The man and women carried the familiar odor of people accustomed to struggle. It turns out the pair was from Columbus, Texas, out near Houston. I got hurt at work and I've hardly been able to walk for going on 2 weeks, said the man, exhausted from the pain and having to tell the story one more time. The employer's insurance company put the couple on a Greyhound bus early that morning and sent them to Austin for a third neurological opinion. They caught a Capital Metro bus at the station and transferred to a second bus downtown. The driver forgot to signal the appropriate stop and dropped them off at the corner of Walsh, Charlton, and Bee Cave. And if you know where that is, it's like hell to be a pedestrian on Bee Caves Road, it really is. And it was a good mile away from where they needed to stop. He told them they could walk back to Mopac instead of keeping them on the bus for another 15 minutes when the route would have circled back. We've been trying to cross that dangerous stretch of road for 40 minutes, said the woman, shaking her head. My office was on Bee Caves. I knew hundreds of cars passed them without stopping. Cars with Christian fish symbols, or United We Stand, or Power of Pride bumper stickers. This is back in 2004 when we were, many of us were so pro-war. The only people of color I have seen braving Bee Caves on foot are the folks working at the car wash. The owners drop customers off all over Westlake and won't pick up workers at the bus stop just 3 blocks away. One single person stopped, and he was a police officer, she continued. He only wanted to know what we were doing and where we were going. He just left us standing out there, she said, still shaking her head. She could hardly believe her own eyes. The doctor's office was less than 5 minutes away. I gave them enough cash for lunch and a cab to take back to the bus station. I wished them well. I knew the road to health would be long and probably harder than it already had been. The husband got out of the car slowly, balancing himself once more on the crutches. The woman stuck her head in the window and thanked me profusely. She God blessed me, going on and on about how I was the angel Jesus sent to give them a hand. I told her it was nothing and bruised my tongue as I bit it. I'm surprised how often Jesus sends me out to do his work. I was raised in the Mexican brand of Catholicism filled with saints, virgencitas, and milagritos. When I was 7 years old, the family dog got really sick. The veterinary treatment was too expensive, so my younger brother and I placed our medallitas around Dookie's neck. We prayed that tight-fisted, squinty-eyed way only young people who believe pray. Dookie lived another 9 years. I'm not even lying. He never went to the vet again. Having learned that miracles take some work, I'm now a thorn in the Vatican side Catholic. I'm actually happy to be Catholic. Even though I don't go to church, I'm very happy that I was raised Catholic. My life choices kept my mother's prayer group in business. I've gone to leftist countries on solidarity trips I never told Mama about. Like I said, I almost killed her several times. She found out I'd been beaten by the Austin Police Department at a Klan rally watching the evening news. And I was deeply in love with a woman with whom I was building building the milagrito of a long and happy life. We are no longer together, but we are still very connected. My sister, formerly Catholic, now Christian with a capital C, said that I was going to hell, as are all Jews, Buddhists, pagans, Muslims, and other Catholics. And I, of course, had to say, I'm going to be in good company. Thank you. I wanted to remind my passenger of all the Christian soldiers who'd driven past her that morning, too preoccupied with their upward mobility and too scared of black people to lend a hand. I wanted to tell her that she was better off with me, a big old Chicana lesbian, a wayward Catholic with a strong sense of justice. I wanted to have her heap those blessings on my relationship because it ain't easy being queer. I avoided asking the traveler the few questions swimming around my head. It was inappropriate. That hateful drivel that heaps the blame for poverty on the poor has invaded my brain too. It is the unavoidable music composed by this country's leaders who also believe that the killing of innocents in war is justifiable. I hum along with the tunes despite my best efforts. Now mind you, I'm a Chicana and I was raised poor in El Paso, Texas. My family experiences slow, grinding poverty of just barely enough, and the ubiquitous racism bred by a proximity to Mexico. We received medical treatment at the pharmacy in Juarez that smelled of failing sewer systems, rubbing alcohol, and pine cleanser. We would just tell the pharmacist what was going on and she would give us the pills. Mama didn't buy new spark plugs. The mechanic off Calle Lerdo in Juarez kept the old ones working. by cleaning them with sand and gasoline. My father often told the story of being spit at by a white man as he pedaled his bicycle across the International Bridge on his way to work. Like a river that carves jagged canyons through seamless glaciers, poverty and racism scored valleys of shame and humiliation in the family geology. Only those valleys didn't take centuries to create. All it took was one generation. Some relatives crashed into the frothy swirl of alcoholism, violence, incest, and stories left better untold. Others died long before their time, overworked and underpaid, or poisoned by carcinogens. The youngest girl child, I was ushered out into an economy that did not accommodate my brown, round, smiling self. Cuidado, mija, said my parents, pointing out pitfalls, giving me tips they'd picked up along the way. Corre, hija, haz tu vida, said mama, patting me on the butt as I ran out the door, hoping I wouldn't get, oh, I'm gonna cry. I hate readings for this reason. I can't ever separate myself enough. I'm not good at that, and I'm okay with that, actually. Corre, hija, haz tu vida, said mama, patting me on the butt as I ran out the door, hoping I wouldn't get too far out of her reach. Praying, praying, always, always praying. So I ran, the pace set by a culture that makes Spanish illegal, ignores my history, and deems my cultural aesthetic useful as long as it is tasty and profitable. And Austin is where I wound up. But running like that is exhausting. I only recently stopped. Remember this back in 2004. I'm making my way back because I left things behind that I find I need now. It's slow going. Giving people rides is one shortcut that also keeps me human and proves that my mama raised me right. I may not know who will get in the car, but I do have ideas based on what I think I see. I'm wrong most of the time. The only thing that I'm right about is that my riders are people in need, like every other person on the face of the earth at one time or another. As I clear all the junk off the seat, I make room for the strangers and their stories. I'm always surprised to hear men who look like my father say they have to choose between eating and paying rent. I'm not always up for the challenge, unfortunately. I can't make the necessary room in the car for the people and in my heart for their stories. Some people refuse the ride. Last week, a woman grabbed her teenage son and ran from me. When I pulled up beside them, it was raining. She was convinced I was either crazy or out to hurt them. I get that a lot. Not out to hurt them, but crazy. After I dropped a couple off from Columbus off at the doctor's office, I drove on to work. I could hardly see because I was crying so hard. I wasn't sad, I was furious. I was just outraged. When I look out on Austin, I get dizzy. The contradictions set my head spinning. The community I call home can be calloused, beautiful, generous, racist, thoughtful, and greedy all at the same time. Ultimately, it's just like me. It doesn't make us bad. It just means that me and Austin have got some work to do, some privilege to give up, some injustice to set straight, some noise to make, some corporations to hold accountable, and some rights to give. Gracias.